for how long now? About a year maybe? Something like that. Good discussion over there, but that's why we're late, so I apologize for the delay in the start of the meeting. We ready to roll? Everybody ready? I just call us to the Tabernacle Township meeting to order. Please join me in standing flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a sunshine notice. This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of May the 8th, 2017 was included in the list of notices sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notices under the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We have roll call. Mr. Barton.
Present.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Franzen.
Here.
Mr. Yates.
Here.
Mayor Lee.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, LaShawn. At this time, we're going to open the meeting for public comment on agenda items only. Items 4 through 10, I guess. And if you're interested in being heard this evening, please raise your hand. I'll call on you. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or so. At this point, open up the meeting to the public. Stuart?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Lee and staff. Regarding the bond ordinance, section 7A, have the roadways that are being reconstructed or resurfaced been identified with certainty?
You said 7A.
Yeah, section 7A. I think I've got the bond right there. So whatever section, have the roadways that are proposed for resurfacing and reconstruction been identified?
Yes. To my knowledge, there, but we haven't discussed it yet. We're going to discuss it some this evening. We're going to have the first reading. We're going to set the public hearing date, but the committee is going to be discussing it before we do set the public hearing date.
Okay, well, I previously asked questions regarding Carranza Road. I'd like to know if Mr. Guzzi inspected Carranza Road.
We can have that question answered at the time of the discussion under item number 6.
Okay. Also on the bond ordinance, I'd like to know what heavy equipment is proposed for purchase and what the need for that is.
That's something we will be discussing during the public hearing date. And that question may also come up during the discussion we'll be having this evening before the setting of the public hearing date.
Okay, I asked the same question for the pickup and the same question for the fire equipment.
And the same answer applies.
Understood. And then the last item that I have a comment or question on regards the resolutions, and there are multiple regarding the placement of signs in the public rights of way. And my question is, assuming that they're passed, will those resolutions be given authority for the placement of those signs in county and state highways? Or is it just county or state rights of way? Or is it just municipal rights of way?
You brought up a good question. That's a question that we can certainly raise during the discussion of those two items.
All right, well, the comment I'll make is if you're intending to give authority to erect signs in the county or state right of way, the question would be, what's the authority that you have to exercise over the jurisdiction over those highways?
Okay.
Okay, thank you
Thank you for
very
your
much.
comments. Any other comments from the public at this time? Mrs. Brooks, come on up. Thanks for the water.
Good evening, everybody. Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. Just a couple of questions on the bill list. This would be page 2, and it's LIG50 lights and sirens. This is regarding emergency lighting. Where is this emergency lighting going? What's it for?
Where you at?
Page 2, well, I have page 2, you have different, yeah, you have it differently, but it's LIG50, Doug.
For truck 15?
It's for a truck.
It's for installation of truck 15.
Oh, okay. So it's for a vehicle. Okay. And on page 3, I have, let's see, that would be RFP 50. Can you remind me again what RFP Solutions is?
They're a phone company.
I'm sorry?
There are our phone equipment company.
Oh, okay. And what do they provide all the physical?
The physical phones and the
System.
System.
Also, right?
Yeah, and the system.
Ah, okay. And the other question that I have is on the agenda.
I have a question about that. Go ahead, Mrs. Brooks.
There you go. Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm not motivated you to ask a question about the
Oh, I don't need your motivation, believe me.
That's good.
I'm good.
Well,
Thank you, though. Go ahead.
Old business, what is public safety regarding?
We've asked, as you may recall, we asked Mr. Lang to give us some thoughts regarding language for the public safety coordinator director that we discussed previously, but we asked him to bring that to the committee this evening. You may recall that from our last meeting.
I do recall that. Was there an ordinance, did you actually draft an ordinance for a public safety coordinator when it was brought back about a year and a half or 2 years ago? So there is an actual draft ordinance?
There's been a lot of language that Mr. Lang has put together that we had asked him to do over the years, and we asked him to compile them together, and we're going to discuss them this evening.
Okay. I think that's it. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public. Need a motion to approve the bills? Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Need a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. I had a question, not necessarily about the bills, but do we have the ability to be able to change when the phones go down at 4 o'clock and goes to voicemail?
Yes.
Okay. But we can't, like, for example, after 4 o'clock, that's the thing.
Right now, the president is at 4 o'clock, but we can move it back later if that would be.
But that would depend on the office.
We presently set it at that because that's when the office is
Right.
closed.
Okay.
Not necessarily when we leave, but when it's closed. when it's officially-
Is that done manually or automatically?
That's done automatically.
So at 8 o'clock, they open, 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. That's all I have. Any other comments or questions on the committee? Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Barton.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Franzen.
Yes.
Mr. Yates.
Yes.
Mayor Lee.
Yes. Next item is approval of the April 24th, 2017 minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to request that you table those.
Okay?
I'll make the motion to table because we didn't get them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What did I say?
Barton.
I said Mrs. Barton. She's not here today, is she? Okay, next item is first reading of the bond ordinance 2017-7. I'm going to ask for a motion and a second to discuss this item, and we will then discuss the public hearing date, et cetera. But I'd like to discuss this ordinance a little bit as opposed to just setting the public hearing date. So I'll ask for Deputy Mayor Yates is open to forward a motion. Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Franzen. In putting the agenda together this past week, or the end of last week, I thought about this a little bit, and I shared this with a couple members of the committee. Not everyone, I will say. I had a discussion with Mrs. Brown, I guess Sunday, and also Mr. Barton earlier last week. And with the creation of the subcommittees that Mrs. Brown and I serve on for the Public Works, and also the subcommittee that Committeeman Franzen heads, I think it's important to put this behind us for a little bit until we get the analysis of Public Works complete, for us to be able to make a more educated decision about purchases of equipment. There's a substantial amount of money that's allocated in this bond. And I'd feel a lot more comfortable borrowing money if we have an actual purpose for borrowing the money. And I think my personal thought is that I would be more comfortable hearing or seeing the data and seeing where we are with Public Works from the work of the subcommittee. I was initially thinking about pulling this from the agenda altogether, but this is a 5-member committee. All 5 of us certainly have an opinion, and I think it's important to discuss this publicly and to see what you folks thought. The rest of us collectively decided, and my thought is that my proposal is to table this all together and get the Public Works portion of this worked out. Now, that the problem with this is that the road program is part of this. It's all one ordinance. So there would need to be some work done to kind of break this out, which we've already done some of it. But my point is, I think I'd like to sit on this for a while until we get the Public Works subcommittee, give them an opportunity to be able to get some work done to figure out where we are with capital purchases. That's my personal thought.
Okay. I'm in 100% agreement with waiting until we get a report from the subcommittee pertaining to Public Works. My question is, I haven't been able to do it, but has anyone on the committee been able to ride the roads that are proposed for resurfacing and see what the actual
I did ride one of them. I rode South Park Road. And, I mean, there are potholes on potholes in some places, but I don't know. I'm not convinced 110%, that it needs to be done. But we do get engineering reports saying that we should be doing these things. It's kind of my opinion as a layperson versus a professional's opinion. And I've also had minor experience with, I think it's Hidden Acres Drive is on the list. And again, there are parts of that need some work too. But it doesn't, it's not like it's like pothole covered and pothole filled, from side to side, up and down, And I guess, the question that really, I think is even broader, I've only been thinking about this, is, if you run a road program, the idea is you do so many every year, so that, in 10 years, 15 years, you've covered all the roads. And even though, some of the roads might not be ready to be redone, do you keep going or not? And this to me is an unanswered question. So you have a program that covers everything over a certain time period. What do you gain if you skip a year? Well, you gain not spending $500,000 or whatever, but you're still probably going to spend it next year. And like I said, I'm really kind of totally on the fence about this. I do agree it should be tabled for further look-see. But that's kind of the experience I've had with a couple of the roads that I'm trying to go look at.
I spend a good amount of time going up and down Carranza Road.
Yeah.
And for a variety of reasons. Sometimes I want to make sure I'm on time to the meeting, so I'll go up Carranza Road. But I also like to have an idea of what's happening on that kind of side of Speedwell. And I'd have to concur with some of the feedback I've gotten from residents, specifically that are along the piece that belongs to us. That road's in bad shape, and after driving through the areas that you just mentioned, I did go through Hidden Acres. I did not go to South Park. But as I was saying to Doug, I can remember when I rode the station wagon to school every day, and that was a one-lane road, and it was never paved. So, dirt road. What do I care if it gets paved or not? That's not true. I don't mean that. But anyhow, I think the complicated part about Carranza is that part of it is Chemung, part of it is state. My personal thought is that it's worthwhile looking at least getting a feel for what's involved in terms of doing repairs to Carranza. I would not do more than what's already there. I don't have any interest at all in improving it all the way down to Friendship. I'm not interested in anything like that. But I think in terms of road comparison and the amount of traffic that Carranza gets, I think it might be worthwhile at least looking at to see what it would take to be able to do that, because I think it would have to be a partnership. In this discussing with Doug earlier this week, or maybe it was earlier this week was yesterday, so I didn't talk to you yesterday. It would have been the end of last week. The issue there is that it's a combination of a few things. It's a combination of the state plus Tabernacle Township plus Tabernacle. So I agree with you. I think it's important to have a road program. We've been doing a road program since I came on our committee 6.5 years ago. And I know that the residents that have enjoyed the improvements we made certainly appreciate it. Some didn't like what happened on Sweet Place Road because people started to go faster. That's an issue. But anyhow, I think it's worthwhile looking at Carranza a little closer, because I made it a point to drive Carranza a couple times in the last few weeks, and also made it a point to drive through the neighborhoods that was proposed on the bond ordinance. So
The thought that I have too about that is, if Carranza's bad, I understand, we've heard that. If other township roads anywhere within our township were equally as bad, I would put them as a priority over Carranza, because I think most of the use that gets done on Carranza is not by Tabernacle residents, and it's not, while we certainly have responsibility for the roads and everything, if 90% of the usage is people going down to the monument or down into the woods in that area, then I think we need to spend our money, everything else being equal, on our own roads. Now, in this case, it appears not to be, because I think this road does seem to be quite bad, what you're saying, what we've heard others say. So, but I need to put that thought out there to really, truly express my feelings on it.
well, everybody's allowed to use the road, regardless of whether it's Tabernacle or
I understand.
And it's interesting when you drive down Suey Road, you definitely know where Tabernacle ends and Southampton begins, without a doubt. I think, and then also same thing on the other end, on the Woodland side. It's amazing, because if you go from Suey coming from 563, it's a mess until you get to Tabernacle. Then it's beautiful, and then you get to Southampton and it's a mess again. I think it'd be good to have roads like Suey Place or Carranza or Hawkins Road that we share with other municipalities, to maybe work with them a little bit and say, how do we fix the road from one end to the other? And work in a more cooperative way with municipalities like that to help, potentially reduce the cost a little bit. Because I think everyone benefits. Yeah, not everybody that drives down Carranza Road is a Tabernacle resident. By the same token, that's our road. And we don't want to be the one in the middle that's got holes in the road and it's beautiful on the other side, like we have on Suey Road right now between Tabernacle, Shimon, and Southampton, or Tabernacle, Woodland.
So I think too, that's probably the perfect use of that flow-through money that we get from the state. We get the road grants every year from the state to use on those roads that are, run through the township. We've heard Doug say a couple of times that helps us get those grants when we talk about roads that are running through as opposed to just within.
Right.
And, should we go that way? And I think it's probably worth talking to Shimon about that. Perhaps that's a way we could go to get some of the state money to that road.
Mayor, one of the things I'd like to see us look at is with the road program. Since I've been on committee, we're borrowing money to pave roads, to mow and pave roads. But we've got a whole host of roads that maybe we could do a better job of maintaining and extend the life of them so we don't have to mow and pave them. And I think that's an opportunity that we can look at, is to go back and look at all the roads and, can we seal up some of them roads, the seams that start to open. I know Public Works goes out and does some patching, but do an overall maintenance of a lot of these roads to extend those roads so that we get maybe a few more years out of them. And I'd
Sounds
like
like
to
a
see
question
that
for
be
Ian.
part of this program rather than just a mill and pave program, to look at that. And then, you know, my biggest concern is, since I've been on committee, the bond keeps going higher. And we're borrowing to do road programs. And somehow, someday, we've got to be able to get those bonds down. And if it's going to be a function of the township that we've got to pave roads, it should be built into our tax base. So we can afford it and not have to pay interest to pave roads that are normal routine that we're going to have to do every year anyway. So that's my comments on the road piece.
Sounds like a damn business question.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's certain things that you can do to extend the life of roads, and you have to kind of stay on top of it. Obviously, you mentioned a few, sealing the cracks, you know, better patches on potholes, not necessarily just throwing some, you know, some cold patch in there, but cutting out and sealing them up properly. So you can certainly do that. The thing to remember with roads, though, is they get to a certain point where you really have to repave them. And if you let them go longer, it's just going to cost more to repave them because then you're into the base repairs, and once that starts to get damaged, they're going to be a lot more expensive to pave. So you want to hit them when the surface is definitely showing deterioration, but it hasn't broken through to the base course yet.
And then you know, the road projects that I've been on in my professional life, the mix of the macadam is not what it used to be.
No, it's not.
It's
It's
very coarse.
absolutely
and the
not
roads
what it
do
used
not
to be.
last as long because the water gets into them and it busts them apart. When you see a paved road, you look at it, you go, this thing's not smooth at all.
The new DOT mixes are not as good as the old mixes were. You're
Why is
absolutely correct. Because they came up with a new mix design and they decided that's what they're going to use.
That's more recycled asphalt.
Yeah, and all the, any state-funded job requires it, so most of the paving jobs use it, so most of the asphalt plants make it, and that's what you get.
It's a problem.
It's a problem, especially because you see the seams open up a lot more.
Yeah,
They open
yeah.
up quicker.
And that's why I bring up
That's
the
one of the first
maintenance of the
things you see.
seams, and maybe we take part of this, this cost this year and target some roads and see if we can seal some of them and extend some of the life of them.
Kevin and I went to the New Jersey Public Works Association Expo 2 weeks ago. And that was one of the main things we looked at is the availability of rental equipment to be able to do that. We used to do that. We did that a number of years ago when I had no manpower. We sealed. If you go over on Red Oak, you'll see that we've sealed that. We've sealed a lot of the roads around a number of years ago, but it's been probably 8-10 years since we did it on a regular basis. And we're looking to try to get back into it. Again, we looked at 3 different suppliers and manufacturers up there of equipment that's available to rent. Some smaller equipment that's reasonably priced to buy, and we've looked at different products, the thickness of it, so whether you're doing under an inch wide crack to over an inch wide crack, there's different materials. So Kevin and I spent probably 2 hours up there looking at that and talking to all of them and getting facts and figures on it, and had planned to try to work it in this summer.
Well, I would say before the township goes expending, buying equipment, that we look and see what our cost would be versus a contractor being able to do this.
We did get some contractor costs on the last road at Sleepy Hollow for additional work that needed to be done on the subdivision road that was the extension, and it was prohibitively expensive when we priced it out.
How long ago was that?
Last fall.
Depends on what you're doing, though. And Mr. Bryan may be talking about putting out like a contract just for a road maintenance, not for actual paving per se, but to come in and either do a, you know, some sort of a crack sealing program, a repair, a patch program, or a, you know, even a sealing, whether you're using a microsurfacing type, which is the old slurry seal type thing, to try to extend the life of some of the roads that are still in decent shape. The surface is still in decent shape, but is getting to the point where if it's left alone, you know, it's going to deteriorate to the point where you have to repave it. You can extend the life of the road a little bit there. I mean, you might get 5-7 years of additional life out of the road. It's not going to be as nice as repaving. So, you know, you shouldn't expect the product to be repaving, but it will help to extend the life of the road. So you could do a contract like that where you're just going out to bid for those specific items on various roads throughout the municipality. But it's, you know, it's tedious work. The contractor's got to sit up here, do a little work here, and then run across, you know, around the corner, down the block, to the side of town, so it's back and forth. So it's not necessarily an inexpensive, you know, route to take.
So it sounds as though we're leaning towards tabling this bond ordinance, is that what I'm hearing?
I'll make a motion to table.
Okay. We need a second?
Second.
Do we want to discuss this any further? I think we have enough to maybe think about a few things.
You're looking for the work of the Public Works Subcommittee on the equipment.
Yep.
And you're looking for cost maintenance before you look at the roads again? Is that?
I think
what- Is that what
Joe can clarify what he's asking. Better than
Doug,
I can.
what I would like to do is take a look at some of the roads that we've done in the last, say, you have a list, right,
Yes,
of the
yeah.
schedule for the last 10 years, and take a look at those, and maybe even invite Mr. Guzzi along with yourself, and take a look at some of these roads that we did 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, and say, is there something we can do to some of these roads, and at what point that we can extend some of the life of them? And see if we can make that part of the road program, and then look at the ones that are really bad, that what do we need to do, and are there areas that we can cut and patch? I don't know. You know, I'm not in favor of, you know, a township adjacent to us recently. Their public works people were just, you know, dumping the coal patch in the street. You drive over it, just blows it all over the street, gets it all over your car, and, you know, the first rain, it's gone anyway. You know, so nothing like that, but something substantial where if you make a patch, you seal it so the water can't get in it, because we know what happens is with the winter, now we came out of winter, all those roads that are open next year, they're going to take on winter, they're going to freeze, and they're going to heave, and it just progressively gets worse. So if we can buy ourselves some time, even a few years on the road, maybe it'll help us with our costs of the road program.
We can put that list together.
Okay.
That's not a problem.
Do we want to entertain the idea of looking into Coranda Road? A joint venture with Sean?
That requires a little bit of work on either my part or your part.
Whichever you prefer. I did talk informally to Shimon. They had just done the program, finished up last year. So I don't know if they're doing the program this year, but it's something we should talk about, so we'll at least get it on their next schedule.
Okay.
And maybe we can convince them to move their schedule up a little bit.
Rick brings up a good point, though, in terms of the money, the sharing with the state. I think it's something to think about. You've got roads that are here, in neighboring towns that we all can share. So it's something, you know, something to think
We've
about.
done that in the past.
But Doug, you have the last 10 years. You have the next 10 years already forecasted where you want to go, or?
I have a list of what back in '99 that they had done, and I update that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can give you the next group of roads.
Okay, but the last 10 and maybe the next 5.
Okay.
And we can take a look at them and say, you know, where do we need to be?
What I've tried to do in the local program is keep roads that have a very low priority being funded by the state DOT, and concentrate on those, and then try to move my state DOT money along as we go. for our primary interconnecting roads.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes that money doesn't stay up to what our needs are, and sometimes we've gotten a little in worse shape than we need to be.
Well, now that we're paying an additional gas tax, maybe you'll get more transportation funds.
There's always hope.
On that note, I'll vote please.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes. Good discussion, folks. Thank you. Resolution 2017-54, authorizing the execution of a hold harmless agreement with the Church of Holy Eucharist. Need a motion, please?
I'll make it.
A second? Second. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Mayor, could just quickly indicate that
Joe was going to say something. Do you have a comment, Joe?
I was going to ask our solicitor to go over the needs of this necessity.
Yep. The JIF has requested contract indemnification with respect to the use of public property. The committee recognizes that a small portion of township property is utilized in conjunction with the Pinelands Festival, namely the parking lot, the ability to afford egress to the site. And so that limited amount of public use and that limited amount of public use, the JIF had requested through our risk control officer, Mr. Monahan, that we have a contractual indemnification in place. And so in addition to providing the certificate of insurance, that extra level of protection, which again is a contract indemnification, is essentially what it provides. And so I prepared that at the behest of the JIF and asked that you adopt it at the request of the JIF as well.
Any other comments from the committee? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Did you go through the necessity of voting?
Well, there is the rule of necessity. It involves the Holy Eucharist. We're actually voting for the township action, though, to approve it and request it. You're not doing anything for the
Or I'm
church.
figuring it
actually.
goes hand in hand with the next
Yeah, but this
resolution.
right with the next.
To the extent that it involves a conflict inherent in the fact that there are a number of committee people that are parishioners, the rule of necessity would be invoked. Again, the Supreme Court or courts have indicated that such ministerial action involving basically local concerns should be handled on a local level, and when that is frustrated by personal conflict like that, that you would invoke that rule and vote in any event. That's what I would request that you do.
Let's roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 2017-55, bringing a raffle license to the Church of the Holy Eucharist. Need a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Roll call.
You vote the doctrine of necessity on this one as well?
That was my intention to express the same sentiment. Yeah.
We listened. We paid attention.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franzen?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lee?
Yes.
Thank
Resolution 2017-56, authorizing placement of temporary signs in the public right-of-way for the Tabernacle Historical Society for the annual Strawberry Festival. I'm also going to include 2017-57, authorizing placement of temporary signs in the public rights-of-way for the Tabernacle Rescue Squad and Tabernacle Historical Society, the annual chicken barbecue. This is essentially what it says, 56 and 57. We'll vote on these together unless there's any objection from the committee.
Is that 59? No?
Why not?
Okay, can I have a correction on the fourth paragraph on the, for Resolution 59, removing Tabernacle Historical Society? There was a clerical error
Yes.
in that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make the motion.
I got to enter it actually, he has to.
Oh, come on.
Go ahead, well then just say it. Just include 2017-59, and make the motion.
I'd like to make a motion for all three. It would be 2017, 56, 57, and 59. 59 excluding the Historical Society.
Language correct.
Second?
Any discussion?
Mayor, just wanted to make the public aware that the Strawberry Festival is usually held here, but this year it's going to be at the community center, correct? That's what this, the signs are for. And then could our solicitor talk about the question that Mr. Brooks raised about the signs on state and county roads?
Let me speak to that.
Thank you, Solicitor.
We have a sign ordinance in town, and so that's why it's necessary to take this action on a local level. I have not looked, but I'm not aware of any such temporary sign prohibitions on a state level. I'm not sure if there's a state statute. I have to look to be sure, but I've never come across or been made aware of it. So although the township can only grant authority as it concerns the township right-of-ways, normally enforcement of such issues falls to a local level, at least as a matter of practice in any event. That being said, the limit of the permission granted would be to the township right-of-way.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franson?
I'll have to abstain.
Thank you.
Why?
My wife's
Oh, yeah.
She's watching.
officer in the Tabernacle Township.
She's making, is she doing the chicken barbecue or is she doing,
Yeah.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lake?
yes. Resolution 2017-50 authorizing submission of the tonnage grant application. Need a motion, please? Need a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? This is pretty standard. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Franson?
Yes, ma'am.
It's all fair play, it's been reversals all night.
Thank you. Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mayor Lake?
Yes. I think want to be respectful.
Doing good.
Public safety, we haven't talked about that in a while. Pete put together an awful lot of stuff for us to look at. So much that I brought my iPad to look at. Pete, you want to walk us through what you sent us?
Well, right now, I'd like to indicate that I did provide a number of documents, most of which have been previously disseminated at one point or another to the committee. I would note for the committee that the correspondence addressed and the emails addressed and the notes directly to the committee are intended for the committee from me and a correspondence between the committee and myself. Also, I provided former drafts of certain ordinances that have been proposed, including an ordinance creating departments of public safety, as well as creating a public safety director. It's no mystery to the committee that right now you contract with those services, very able municipal or the entities in town, which are your fire company and the squad. They are independent entities to the extent that they contract for the provision of those services pursuant to statute, and their ability to do so is enabled through those statutes, those enabling statutes that have existed for many, many decades in the state. So that's your current form of or structure in the delivery of those emergency services, both fire, EMS, and rescue. That is all, of course, presided over, managed by your executive function and your administrator, who handles all of your delegation of executive power in the committee, and he manages his relationships and their interaction with the township as it concerns the delivery of the service, not the actual firefighting or delivery of emergency medical services. That's reserved to the professionals and those who are accredited and licensed to do so. But the interface, the management of that relationship, the financing is all overseen by your administrator and, of course, the committee. You don't have to look beyond many of your adjoining municipalities to see how it can be handled differently. It doesn't certainly, there's no commentary on that performance at this point in time, other than to say you could enhance that. You could provide a public safety director or otherwise direct your administrator to undergo a certain level of review and management of those services, if you felt that there was a need to enhance that structure to strengthen that relationship, that management. And of course, the committee as a public entity, as a municipal entity, has other options, including and not limited to establishing an in-house department of fire or EMS. If you look at the Medford Lakes model, for example, they have an in-house department, which is a municipal department which is funded through the borough, and the committee appoints chiefs, and of course they don't have paid individuals, but the service of those municipal departments is accomplished through the in large part with the very able volunteers that of course have served the borough for many years. The borough fire department, I know, has been around for a very long time, and it's only in the last 6 years or more whereby the EMS was brought in under the umbrella of the borough. But again, it didn't modify the fact that those departments are served by the volunteers. It's just a more direct management role by the governing body, the manager, borough manager, and then of course the budget is actually at that point part of the municipal budget. There's also the option of contracted service through professional organizations and corporations that provide such services in EMS in particular. And also lastly, the idea that you could have a paid service and populate your departments with paid individuals, which I think is probably a very might be cost prohibitive in the context of Tabernacle and the size and breadth of the service that's being provided. So what you've enjoyed for many years is the benefit of a very able-bodied crew of volunteers, both at the fire company and the EMS, as I understand, for generations, supported in large part by the benevolence of the township residents and the township itself. That's what you have now. And there isn't any specific ordinance regarding how that management or supervision is to occur from an executive standpoint, that's where you're at. So the documents that have been proposed over the years were hoped to provide some perspective in that regard, some statewide studies that shed light on those issues, the statutes that are authorizing those departments, and several different versions of an ordinance. You could keep what you have now, of course. You could strengthen that if you wanted to strengthen the oversight or the direction given to your administrator by establishing him as also a public safety director or another body as a public safety director to manage those relationships. You could create in-house departments with in-house budgets, ask the volunteers to populate those departments, and you have the ability to go to a contracted service. Although I'm not aware of any municipality, and nor do I think it would be statutorily permissible that would have a contracted fire service. EMS is certainly something that's contracted. Is there? George is shaking his head, so.
Yeah, there's neighboring towns that provide a contracted service to a neighboring community.
Well, that's statutory though. They're allowed to do that through a statute. I don't know that there's like go to a bidding process or anything like that for fire service. I'm not aware of that. So I'm happy to respond to any questions, but that was meant to be an overview of the structure as it exists and the different machinations that could exist.
One of the things that I thought about, actually, I want to give Mrs. Brown I almost said Mrs. Borden. I want to give Mrs. Brown the credit for this. We had talked about this a little bit, and one of the things I think would be good, at least for a start, is to have a cost of operations and what the township pays into for both services. We have a bond on a building behind us. We have $43.99. We have the operational costs now that we've incurred from the fire district for the fire department, we have insurance we pay fuel, we pay equipment. I think it would be good to get an idea exactly what the costs are for both the actual costs, operational costs, and what the township pays, including the debt for both organizations, to give us an idea exactly what the taxpayers pay for the services. I think it's important to have an idea what that number is. Joe and I, when we initially put the report together, we learned that it's more expensive to operate a fire company and more of a challenge to operate a fire company from a day-to-day operational cost standpoint than it is for an ambulance service. However, in this case, we have a lot of debt that's behind us that we need to pay for too. So I would respectfully ask Mr. Kramer, and you and I talked about this, so it was kind of your idea, but if I'm missing anything, just tell me. But I think it'd be nice to know exactly what the services cost. In addition to that, I think it's also, it will be interesting to know what it would cost us if we had what the real value is behind a public safety coordinator person. What are we really getting for that? And that would probably potentially be also answered in the cost analysis for both organizations. But I think it'd be good. Joe actually made a reference to it during the budget. Joe had said, I'd like to see line items on the budget to know exactly what we're paying into the fire company. I think it's a very valid point. He brings up a lot of good points. This is certainly an issue that all of us have an interest in. I think all five of us are in agreement that we have an awful lot of respect for the two organizations, but I think we're also tired of talking about them at every meeting. So that's one thing I'd like to do, that I'm going to ask if we could get a cost analysis for both organizations, going back to 2015, 2016, and also what we've spent thus far in 2017. Is there anything I missed? No?
No.
And that was Kim's idea, which I think is a good idea. It goes a little bit farther. It goes beyond what you and I have done. It's a lot more detail in terms of the cost. Because we know, like for example, when we were putting the report together, we knew kind of what the insurance cost, and we knew what the fuel cost is.
I haven't put it in one document.
Yeah, that's
I've given you bits and pieces
Right.
as you requested it, but I've not put it in one document.
right. Any other thoughts?
We actually can't move forward with this until we get a little bit more information.
We can do whatever you want.
Having a whole bunch of those with numbers gives you much better ground decisions. That's just my thought.
I don't disagree with her, and I don't agree with her on a lot of things. But I agree with her on this. I think this makes sense.
That's what I'm saying, we really can't go, I mean, we can discuss it, but
Yeah.
I don't see where we can make a decision on anything and without the extra information.
Yeah. Yeah. That was music.
You do that while you're riding the road.
Excuse it, see if you can borrow Mr. Brooks' tape recorder, he might be able to multitask.
We want to discuss this anywhere tonight?
I think it makes sense to go ahead. I mean, again, I've looked over this stuff that we got from Peter, looked at all this stuff.
We all
in
have.
the report, and it's almost like there's still a little bit missing to
Yep.
this. And I think that this is a good idea. Let's see how that fits into the equation.
I will tell you that it was a lot of work putting that report together.
Yeah.
It really was. But Kim brings up a really good point, and the thing about it is that Joe kind of, and we talked yesterday afternoon, probably, and I thought about it a lot between last night and today, but Joe's points during the budget process about having line items and knowing where the costs are. That's valuable information that we don't, it's one thing we don't really have. We know what it costs, we've heard from Doug kind of what the costs are, but let's itemize it out. Let's really break it down. So, unless we have any objection, we're gonna move on. Okay. I don't believe we have any new business this evening, so we'll move on to reports. Mr. Guzzi.
Just one lingering thing from last year on the road program. You may recall there's a small portion of Sleepy Hollow that's going to be repaved, and that should happen in the next couple of weeks. We're waiting for a firm date from the contractor. But it was an area which we didn't feel was done adequately, and the contractor's going to come and repair that section, repave that section roadway. So as soon as we get a firm date, we'll let Mr. Kramer know, but you can expect it sometime in the next several weeks.
Anything else for Dan?
Passports? Few punch items left?
Yeah, on the parks, I think everything is pretty much wrapped up. We're just finalizing the paperwork on it.
Mr. Kramer.
We've had a very interesting week as far as water in our buildings. We lost water in Town Hall at the tail end of last weekend. We were able to make the repairs on Monday, and staff worked through that, and we're up and running the water again in Town Hall. The community center, we were notified on Wednesday when the seniors were down there getting ready to leave for the bus trip that we had a water issue. We went down, thought we had a minor issue with the conditioner. That escalated into, we had a lot of sand coming out of the well. We brought in a well company that we elected to dig up the well, see what we had, see if we could blow it out and get it operational again. That did not work. So I'm in the process now of collecting quotes for drilling a new well at the community center. I've talked to our environmental consultant, Doug Stewart, concerning the Jones Cleaner DEP situation down there. While we seem to be off the direct path as of right now, I am probably going to recommend and elect to go with a deeper well. The commissioners did that with a fire company a few years ago, and that served them well, so I'll probably a little more initial cost up front, but the overall day-to-day cost and what happened to use conditioner and that drops out of it. So time we put the cost of adding conditioners and that onto the shallow well, we're not that far apart. That's probably going to be where I headed. I have one more well company to contact, so I can get 3 quotes, given the size of the cost. So we will be moving forward on that.
Doug, on the well,
Yes.
how would the location of that well affect the preliminary conceptual design that Dan did if we were to repurpose that area?
We would be outside the building.
So this well would be in
Yeah, we're
the
taking
right
into
location.
consideration of what that is to make sure we don't interfere with
Okay, good, thank you.
that. Bring you up to date on Public Works. We have finished brush. We are moving on to stormwater drain cleaning, and we did have, in that heavy rains the other night, we did have, on Friday night, we did have an emergency on Sleepy Hollow, and we went down and serviced that and got that cleared up. And we are presently working with Chemung Township on Inskeep Court with another area that overflowed on Friday night also. So we'll be working with that. I think I have an update right now.
This is our last meeting before the Memorial Day Parade. Is there anything that we need to discuss regarding that?
tomorrow night.
I'll let you see this tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, and that's on the discussion. Both Mark and Colonel Lowe leading that discussion. Do either one of you have anything that the committee needs to know at this point in time?
They have a public comment portion, they're going to do that.
Okay. From Public Works standpoint, we'll be working with both
That's where I was coming
from the Recreation Committee and Emergency Management
That was the basis of my question.
to move that forward.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Pete?
You're welcome.
Couple things, Mayor. I did want to mention that Mr. McAndrew again had contacted me regarding the Haas property and their request for the township to consider what possibilities might be there on a zoning issue for solar. I reminded him that the township was of the opinion that they wanted to be assured that they had completed all of the requirements associated with their existing and outstanding permits, and that they had been invited to come and speak to the committee should they want to have any real discussion on that. Beyond that, I will say that the township did have some significant trouble transferring title that was in the name of the fire district to the 1997 F700, but we were able to. The reason we had some obstacle is that the lien on the title had not been marked satisfied, and the leasing company was long since out of business. The gentleman had passed away, so we did have some difficulty. It was a thorn in my side for a while, but with the help of Doug and tracking down the widow of the principal of the leasing company, we were able to get the necessary documents signed and the title signed, and we have successfully transferred that title into the name of the township. And that's all I have.
Okay. Township Committee. Deputy Mayor Yates, you're next.
Well, I really don't have anything to report. I'm looking forward to the Memorial Day Parade. Last year was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this year. Expecting the same, just a little bit better probably.
Are you guaranteeing the weather?
Rain or shine, we're having it.
Yeah, okay. You can talk to Doug at 6:30 on Saturday morning. You can make the call, and then I'll take a brief for it.
But I will say that I'm a little disappointed in the our local state police department incident that happened at my house over 16 days ago. I'm still trying to get a accident report. I'm told that it has yet to be prepared, which is very surprising to me. So I'm working on that situation. Other than that, I have nothing to report, but I did have to put that out there.
Doug, could you invite the station commander to our next meeting, please? Yep. We haven't seen that for a while. I imagine you'll probably get it before that meeting. But
Yeah, I probably will get them. Hopefully.
anything else?
No, that's it.
Brianna.
I really have nothing except that our school's iSTEM program is going to be featured on the New Jersey Network channel next week, I believe. They came in and did a special on the school's iSTEM program, so they're having it. I think the committee's going to be invited, if you haven't already, to the red ribbon debut, red carpet rollout of the program.
You might think that might be.
Think so?
Yeah,
you might
I'm
have,
pretty sure.
you might, that might be a problem.
I don't do it.
I can let you know.
Arrange a paper copy.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
Mr. Franzen.
Well, we're all patiently awaiting some warmer weather. And we actually had a meeting the other night of the tree lighting committee when we were thinking about the colder weather in December. And that's moving along again. We're at a point where some official invitations are going to go out to community organizations to ask them to either attend or participate or somehow be involved in the group. So just as an update, the tree lighting committee is out there doing what it needs to do.
Can we get a date so the committee can approve the date of the tree lighting since it's a township event?
Yeah, we can, but usually we ask the rec committee to, make that request of the, unless you just wanted to do something here, you mean, or?
Well, the committee, it's a committee decision in terms of when the date is. And if it's presented by the rec committee, I've got no problem with that. But the committee, we got into trouble last year, the year before, because we were ready for the event, the committee never approved the event. So I just want to get some dates for when the rec committee is going to propose to do the tree event, and the committee approve that before we
So
start.
the tentative date right now is the first Friday in December, same as the last couple of years.
Okay.
But the tree committee hasn't really, that's what they've discussed, anyway, December 1st.
Is the first Friday in December agreeable to the committee?
It's agreeable, please, still can't make it.
Well, this is your opportunity to
Well,
say,
I'm just
I
saying,
want to move it.
well, I don't want to move because of me, but I can't make it because of prayer commitment in Westchester. It happens to fall at the same time every year.
That's why we're having this discussion.
I'm just saying, yeah, but I don't want everyone to have to change it just because I can't make it. I'm just saying that I can't make it if it works for everybody else.
Is that the best time to do it? Is the first weekend of December the best time to do it? I mean, it's when we've always done it, but is that the best time to do it?
Maybe seems to feel so.
Well, you want the tree lit as long as possible.
That's true. I can do that.
Could do it on Black Friday.
You know what? That's kind of where the whole idea was conceived some years ago. Black Friday and before Lamine, before Lamine does theirs, they do it Black Friday. Will we get people here on Black Friday to do that, I wonder?
Well, I think Christmas starts today after Halloween.
Black
So you
Friday.
want to do it November, you want to do it All Saints Day? Is that what you're suggesting? I think Kim can make it then. So do we want to keep, do we have dates from the committee or not, the rec committee, or not?
From the rec committee, no, there's nothing official has been put together yet. We have just talked that it's the same every year. We've established the first Friday in December as a group. That's when the event will be. And I think people are kind of getting used to that date, saying, this is it. We also have, and I don't have this totally confirmed yet, but there's a strong possibility that the Seneca Band is planning on that date also, kind of working around that. But that's not totally confirmed yet. I don't want to, pretend that it is, but that's what they're looking to.
Okay.
And I was a little bit worried too when they told me they needed to confirm that date to get their buses ready. So last year we had 4 people walking around, playing instruments before the event began, but I think this year they want to bring down a lot more people.
It's a big deal, man.
Yeah, it is.
Telling you, it's a big deal.
They want to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak.
How much longer are you going to Westchester?
2 more years.
2 more years? Okay, well, we ought to vote on it at some point, as soon as we get a
Well,
confirm.
do you want to do it tonight? I mean, we can do it tonight if you want. Doesn't matter to me.
And we can, anybody can make a motion anytime. Okay, see none, we'll see you next month. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay, Joe?
Thanks, Mayor. I want to thank Chief Smith for his annual report, which I didn't get a chance to read yet, Chief, but I will read through it. Also, last week, I was down at the New Jersey Emergency Preparedness Conference in Atlantic City that was started 19 years ago. And Colonel Lowe was there, and Colonel Lowe was one of the nominees for the Kevin Tuno Award. Kevin Tuno was the Bryan County OEM coordinator for many years. I knew Kevin for probably over 20 years, worked with him closely in my professional life, and unfortunately Kevin passed away a few years ago, and they made an award in his name. And this award is a big honor just to be nominated. So while the Colonel was not the recipient of the award, just to be nominated, to be one of the few that are nominated to that award is a major accomplishment and great credibility. So I congratulate you, Colonel, for that nomination. And I did see some of your CERT team down there also. So hopefully they learned a lot, It's very informative. They have classes from Monday all the way till Friday midday. And it's unlike the New Jersey League of Municipalities. It's not about a big party. It's about education and public safety. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
It's interesting when you go to the league or you go to events like that and you talk to certain members or folks that are in OEM and they know exactly who Colonel O is. And it's no nonsense. Every time that you go to talk to someone from CERT or from OEM that works throughout the state, they know exactly who Colonel O is. They have a tremendously high opinion of him and the way he conducts his business, and we're very, very fortunate. I've got a couple things. Joe and I, as I mentioned earlier, Joe and I were meeting with the Board of Ed Township Committee Liaison Committee over at the ESB, and we have a couple things to report from that. The library project that I think I've discussed at previous meetings is in the process of getting kicked off. They've been very busy with a lot of other issues over the school, but this particular project is hopefully going to really open up the library area. And the hope from the Board of Ed and also from us, specifically the Board of Ed, is hoping to be able to open up the facility in that area for more public use. And there was some discussion about potentially having nights during the week where the library would be open from, say, 3 to 6 p.m. and then maybe one night a week it would be available for residents to be able to use. They're also considering creating Wi-Fi hotspots over by the school. So I think the fact that we have this committee and have the opportunity to be able to sit and have some candid discussion with school board members is a really good thing, and I'm glad that we're doing it. So that we had that this evening. I wanted to, at our last meeting, we had the creation of the 2 subcommittees for buildings and grounds. Not only the buildings and grounds was existing, but the public works. I had asked residents to express their interest regarding to be part of those committees. I did hear from Jack Sandman, and he's interested in working on buildings and grounds, so he's going to be part of that committee. I also have one for the Public Works Subcommittee, which you and I you're the chairperson, but I don't have their name in front of me, so I can't say who it is yet because I don't remember. I also was reminded today that we need to do a appointment to the Recreation Committee, which we should have done at the reorg. So I will ask LaShawn to communicate out there's a form that we send out, I believe, that we advertise for folks who are interested, and then just have
Citizen leadership.
Citizen leadership. So we'd like to get that done so we can get that position filled. Mr. Bard made a reference to the report that we received from the Tabernacle Fire Company. I appreciate getting this ahead of time. It's very extensive, and as Mr. Bard had indicated, he'd like some time to look at it. With that being said, I'd like to put this on the agenda for the next meeting so we can have an opportunity to be able to absorb this report and then ask some educated questions at that time. I believe that's all I have.
Add just something to my report.
I've already got you crossed off.
I'd just like to thank the fire company. When the community center is down, they've stepped up and offered to host the seniors on Wednesday. And I'd like to thank the squad because they picked up the slack for the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts. So both organizations have stepped up and helped us when we're in a little bind at this moment. I just want to say thank you for both.
Good. Okay, and at this point, we're going to move on to public comment on anything at this point. Please state your name and address for the record. Answers to questions will be addressed in reports. I'm just reading what's written here. I've never actually read that. You know the drill. Mr. Lemire.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark Lemire, 32 Washington Way. He actually was going to bring up the parade, so we have the parade this month on Saturday, May 27th. So I appreciate everybody's support and looking forward to meeting with Colonel Lowe tomorrow evening for coordinating that. Couple things, again, you mentioned one of the issues, we have a rec committee, obviously rec committee members right now, Lynn Hidden, Dolores Rubin, Jen Dorr, Tim Gallo, and myself. And again, we are looking to fill that out, that body out, and and we do to encourage more people to participate in that, would be very much welcome. So again, thank you, LaShawn, I know the form's been out, we got Tim Gallo on board, but again, anybody has any recommendation or can spread the word, we're certainly looking for those volunteers.
We should have done that, that's something I should have made sure that got done in January, that's my fault.
One other thing we're doing, we're actually this year going to try to recently have a grand marshal. We didn't have one last year, so we've got a number of candidates right now. So I just wanted to ask the committee or put that to the committee. Again, we have a number of names. Some have been contacted, some shown some interest. But if there's any recommendations, again, this is obviously a township event, so we'd certainly like to get any input you have as a committee on who you might think might be appropriate grand marshal for the parade. We've had good success of people coming and having a very inspirational speech or talk for the people to show up. So again, we'd like to do that. So again, any recommendations anyone might have, I can surely provide you the names I have, and again, to talk to some, have a couple others, to see how that performs in the next few days here. We're trying to get them locked down within a week. So any recommendations or input you guys might have would be very welcome.
You'd asked me about one individual who I have not talked to yet.
Okay, that's
I'll
fine.
get back to you.
That's fine. As far as the tree lighting, just to switch gears, I'm just waiting for it to get warm, so thinking about the Christmas is getting a little bit ahead of us. But it is December 1st, is the first Friday of December. So I think we would target that. Of course, our biggest issue with this event is weather. So delaying it any further, we just probably run the risk, although it's a crapshoot, of whether or not we get worse weather as we go into December. So
You afraid
earlier
some
the
snow?
better. Well, last
Afraid
year
some
it
snow?
didn't snow, but boy, we had 60-mile-an-hour winds. So just when you think you got everything covered, they throw another one at you. So that's about it. Again, thank you everybody for your support, and look forward to seeing everybody at the Memorial
Are
Parade.
you doing the bike decoration this year?
Yes, we will. Yep, we will.
We were talking, Joe and I when we were talking with the school today, the school board members. One of the things we were talking about was bike safety, and what brought it up was the accident over here a few weeks ago. Just overall safety,
Yeah.
and bike safety. And one of the things we talked about was having a kind of a public awareness event over at the school that would talk about safety of bicycles, motorcycles, ATVs, and wearing helmets, the importance of that and whatnot. I was going to talk to you a little bit about that too at some point, but.
Well, we fold that into any of the events they're doing with the recreation committee, that would be great.
Okay.
So Lynn Hennon, obviously, we got a lot of kids in the TAA, so that's probably a great nucleus of taking those couple hundred participants and trying to educate them as well. So maybe it's something we do in conjunction with getting the TAA groups together on a Saturday morning or something, maybe some ball fields as well, so.
Okay.
Can
Okay?
I interject something on that?
Sure, of course.
I know in the past, one of the things that we have done for bicycle safety was we actually had a trauma nurse in from Cooper that actually talked to parents about these children when they come into Cooper that have been in bicycle accidents and ATV accidents and not having helmets on them and what they face when they come in. And that, in the past, has had some impact on parents trying to make sure that their children wear the helmets.
Yeah, I see poor kids that don't have helmets on, obviously see them on the main roads here, and obviously it only takes somebody to just be distracted for a moment to cause quite a situation. I was in Minnesota recently, 2 weeks actually this past month, and they had one of their big electronic boards across I-94, one of their big roadways, was all lit up, and the message says, "Even Evel Knievel wore a helmet," which I thought was rather interesting. And they don't have, interesting enough, they don't have helmet laws out there for motorcyclists, but at least they were trying to promote the fact that
They
it's
don't
a
have it
good
on
thing.
Ohio either.
Crazy, I know, they're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's it.
Yeah, it just makes no sense to me whatsoever, but yeah, even Evel Knievel wore helmets, so that was something.
I can tell you in Ohio specifically, my brother-in-law was in the state assembly in Ohio, and his opinion was that it was a freedom of choice. You're infringing on the person's right to be able to wear a helmet, or not wear a helmet.
Ben Roethlisberger changed his mind on that one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Put his head through the windshield of that car.
Yeah, so yeah, there's really no reason, but okay, well, great, if there's any way we can fold that into these activities,
Okay,
that'd be a great thing to do, so, thanks for your help.
thanks, Mark.
Take care.
Anybody else? Colonel Love.
We have 124 Hidden Acre Drive, Tabernacle. the emergency management coordinator. Dr. Barton, I'd like to thank you for what you said. One of the things that he left out was that Kevin Tuno was an inspiration to all of us, and he mentored municipal OEMs, especially ones like me that had no idea what they were doing and had catching about to find someplace. And his goal was the professionalism of emergency management. The Emergency Management Association, New Jersey Emergency Preparedness Association, took the next step to develop an award in his name to recognize the profession. And many of you may not know it, but emergency management is a profession. It is not something that somebody just walked by and say, I can spell it, but therefore I am. And in conjunction with that, one person was selected to be the Emergency Management Coordinator of the Year, and she is probably the ideal. She's been in emergency management for 35 some years. She's a life member of the Tabernacle Squad and Fire Company. She was at Ground Zero and suffered the health effects of that. She is the Emergency Management Coordinator of Virtual Hospital System. She is the team leader for the county CERT team. She is the deputy OEM for Tabernacle, and that's folks we're all from Tabernacle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Anyone else? Stuart?
Thank you, Stuart Brooks, North Meadow Road. I wanted to follow up on the fire company report. I'm glad to see it. I was surprised to hear it described as an annual report, because I thought the reports were supposed to be monthly, and maybe that was just a misstatement or not. But I'd like to follow up on a question that I asked yesterday. It seems like yesterday, it was last meeting, 2 weeks ago, regarding the fire company report. I had asked if and when they were going to be provided, and the follow-up is I hope and I presume that all the kinks and bugs have been worked out so that now the fire company report, as well as the TRS report, will be issued with the required regularity that the committee had in mind when it initially discussed having these reports provided. And I look forward to them being presented in a regular manner, and hope that this is the beginning of that. As to the contents of the report, because we haven't seen the fire company's report, but the word extensive or words like that have been used, so I'm hopeful about that as well.
It looked very thick to me, that's why I said that.
Yep, well, I'm hopeful that it's all there. And I know that the TRS report is also pretty thick and seemed pretty thorough. And the comment that I would make from that is that when the committee was first discussing what the contents of this report should be, I know members of the public made suggestions about what they thought the contents should be. The committee elected to be a bit more laissez-faire about it. And I think now that time has gone on, and now that these two extensive reports have been prepared, that the committee will now be able to tailor its expectations and be able to make a more informed decision about what information they look forward to seeing in both of these reports, what information, if any, is missing and might be added in future reports, and what information, if any, is just extraneous and just doesn't matter. But I suspect that very little of that information is in those reports. I just put that out there to keep the logical whole together. And that's it.
Thank you for your comments. Mrs. Brooks, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did.
You're kind of sitting down and hiding behind your tripod there. But did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a couple of things.
What's your name again?
Oh, thank you. Fran Brooks, Morris Middle Road.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Regarding the road program, we still didn't get an answer from Mr. Guzzi regarding whether he had traveled down that portion of Perez Road, ending at Moore's Meadow, so he could get a good look at the the quality of the road. I think all of you, I applaud Mayor Lee for traveling that road and seeing exactly what the quality is. And we're down to bare sand, and I think it would be valuable to seriously consider repaving that road. I don't think it's been touched for 30 years or so. There's some pretty severe areas all along 1.25 miles. And as for your comment, Mr. Franson, about there are very few people down there, I'd like to know if you actually, that's an empirical question, because we've actually looked at the number of people, and there are probably as many people coming out who are residents of Tabernacle, coming out of Morris Meadow, and using that road, just residents of Tabernacle, using that road, that are living on some of the proposed roads. So I think one has to be careful about saying, drawing a conclusion without having the empirical evidence as for the use. There are also a lot of delivery trucks that go to the farmers that live on that road. They're up and down that road regularly. The farmers in season are constantly moving their product in and out of that road, and so there is a huge amount of traffic. And as for the school that's further up, they too are. There's a lot of use that comes out of the school. Indeed, they are a state. It's a state school, but notwithstanding, that road is really, one, in very bad shape and very dangerous. And that's another point I'd like to make. This isn't just about the number of residents. You've got a dangerous road there, and under those conditions, the township is exposed to that liability and should take it really seriously. So, having said that, I do want to touch on an issue. All of you know that I file open requests for Mr. Lang's invoices. Well, it's a record, it's titled an invoice. Now, Mr. Kramer and Mr. Henry certified on the DCA BPA questionnaire that Tabernacle is in compliance with the comptroller's legal services best practices. And as yet, it's clear to me that in looking even at the last 3 bills titled invoices, that it doesn't meet state standards. So I have one question, if you would just bear with me.
Is that your,
Yeah,
excuse me
that's
one
the
second,
timer.
is that your timer? Okay. I'll give you a question.
Thank you. Are there any other documents, such as a report or a ledger or a list of dates containing information, besides the records or these titled invoices that the clerk provides me, that supplement the records, these records that I get from the clerk, or otherwise provide a basis for the certifications of compliance with the comptroller's best practices? So in other words, are you getting another set of documents? I don't know what form they would be, how they would be presented. Are they, a list of dates with information that is not being provided by the clerk barber? If there's another set of documents that you're receiving, what are these records called, so that I can ask for them when I submit an OPER to clerk barber for the documents. And so if you could help me with that, I can certainly make Ms. Barber's job a lot easier, and my job a lot easier.
Okay, fair enough.
Is there an answer to that question? I know.
There will be after I talk to our attorney, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask him right now, but.
Okay. Why wouldn't you? It's a public question. Invoices are public records.
Right, I just gave you my answer.
Okay.
I appreciate the question. I will get back to you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the public this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public. Ask for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Hey, how you doing?
Do I email to you or do you want to copy? He put some copies downstairs.
Oh, did you?
Today, but I didn't see him on the table. So we'll get you a copy.
Right all over? I wrote all over.
And they're on the website.
Is it all right?
Yes, I've got it on the
It was in a bill list, I just was curious if there's any activity.
Give myself.
Because I went to
Coming to the meeting, Mark? Two different meetings, two different people. You coming to the meeting, Mark?
I can't help but hear ears. Turn this table right over. 8 o'clock, right?
You don't have, you never change.
You don't have no idea record.
Wait till I'm down. I don't, huh?
That bite.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I'll try the whole, I'll try to break it.
But you can talk if you want to. I mean, no, I don't really know why.
It's harmless, I don't know where it's
Safer. See ya.
Cheryl, how are you?
All right, how are you doing?
Thanks, Walter, for
You know,
We'll shut this off.